Now, if you wanted to do more complex things, such as if-then statements, etc., the other very interesting thing about Excel now is as soon as you put in the equal sign to tell it that it's going to be a function and you start typing a function, it will actually give you that function. And the great thing about it is if you click on the function and insert it, it gives you the actual formula that you need to fill out. So here you can see if the logical test is true, then it'll be this value. If the logical test is false, then it'll be this value. So what we'll do is I'll create a little test. So what we'll say is if F9 is equal to F4 is equal to F3, then this is equal to yes, and if it's not, then it's equal to no. Now, one thing when you're doing these formulas and you're using letters, you must make sure that you put the letters in quotation marks. So you can see it says no. So the formula is correct because F4 doesn't equal F3. So the answer is no. And that's an if-then statement. Now you can expand on that statement and do a lot of things with it. Okay. So we've done basic formatting, we've done the basic setup of your AutoSum functions here, and we've done a little bit more of a complex one, which is the if-then one. But the key to remember with Excel now is that once you start typing the first part of an actual formula, it will show you the rest of it here, and it will give you the name and it will give you a hint. Now, the big thing with both Excel and Word is always to remember this piece here, and this is the help function. The help function's fantastic, they're really usable, and the beautiful thing about them is you just simply search for the thing. So if you're wanting to look for if function, hit enter, it'll go through and it'll say, well, here's the if function, here's some description about it, here's the test, this is how you do it, here's some remarks, and look, here we'll even give you some examples of how to use it. Okay? So it's nice and easy, it's a great help feature. Okay, the last thing we're going to do is sorting. Now, sorting can be done in two ways. We need a lot of data to sort, so what we're going to do is we're just going to clear this out. We're just going to make some data across the top here. And we're going to add Fred, Bob, Jones, Henry, Luke, Peter, Mary, Jane, Missy, Reg, and Jules. Okay, and across the top we're going to just put in March, and then I'm going to allow Excel to fill these for me. Okay, so now I've got that. Now the other interesting thing about formatting, if I select the cells and double click, it will automatically compress the cell width to equal this up here. If I actually do it again and grab this and pull it so that I extend it like so, it will actually extend all the cells to the same width, which is quite a nice presentation method. I can set the centering up by having them all selected. I can do them left, I can do them right. I can go through now and we'll just do some basic formatting. Remember too that Excel now has some really nice preset formats for us. So if we go into format a table, it actually gives us these preset formats. So we might just pick one of these. and it automatically picks up the header for us. It's told us that this is to be a header. We don't want that one to be a header at this stage, so we'll just delete that out. Okay, so now that it's done a header across here, you also notice because it's done that, it's automatically created for us a set of selection tools. So these tools work really interestingly, because what we can do is we can either select all, we can create filters, or we can select a series, and it sorts that automatically. Now, if we go back a step, and we'll remove that formatting. So let's say we just do a basic formatting job, same as what Excel just did for us. Now, a manual way of doing what Excel did would be simply to select our header row and go across to sort and filter here. So we can say sort, or we can say filter. We're going to filter. Now remember, we haven't selected this row, so it's not going to allow us to filter via this. We can only filter by the numbers we've got. So what we need to do is extend across, so we make sure that everything's selected. Go back, turn off the filter, and then turn it back on again. Okay, now we've got the same situation we had before. We can go in here, we can say it contains, and we're going to look for any one of these that contains the letter E. So they're all the cells that contain the letter E with our results. So that's filtering. Now filtering can be really great and complicated in the sense that you can filter lots of different elements. But the best thing about it is that you can always clear your filters and return to your set data. Okay, so we've got our filters. Alright, now the last thing that most people want to do is they always want to do the old classic, let's insert a column. Now, Excel has the functionality like Word to insert things like headers and footers, etc. Okay, you've got headers and footers here, you've got pictures, clip art, shapes, smart art. You can insert all those. But the most important one, of course, is inserting a graph. So what we're going to do is we're just going to select all of this data. Then we're going to go in here and we're going to tell it we want to create a 3D column graph. Now the best thing about this is Excel will automatically pick up our data for us, and it will say, well, obviously this is how you want it to be organized, because we've got your header row and your side row, and so you can see it's automatically created our data for us. Now if we wanted to switch the data, we can click this one and it will switch the data around. Now in this case, because all the data is identical, all of our data sets look identical. We can also switch it back again. If we don't like the layout, we can go in here, so we can add titles, we can add a legend. At the moment it's showing on the left, we maybe add it on the top. We can move our titles around. Put it across here, double click to type in it, so we can say this is our sales chart. Okay. You can add grid lines, you can add axes. Okay. Alright, so once we've done that, we can also go here and we can think, oh well, you know, that column graph wasn't really giving us what we wanted, so we'll change it to a pie graph and see what happens. And there's our pie graph. And our pie graph, unlike a column graph, can't give us month by month. It can only give us either the sales by sales rep, or if we switch the columns around, it can give us the sales by month. But it doesn't have the capacity to give us the multiple data that a column graph does. And that's why you choose different types of graphs. So you can go in here and there's lots of different graphs here that we can use. You need to pick the one that's most appropriate. Okay, so that's basically in a nutshell. Now, of course, if you always make a mistake, you can always go in and manually change the data. So you might think, well, you know, I don't want Fred, so you can remove Fred from your data set for you. Click OK and you'll notice it will update this here. Okay, and you see that the data set now is that. If we swap the columns back, then we only have those people selected in our data set.